time are they coming?
5 minutes.
So who's gonna be here?
My mother, my grandmother, my brother, my sister, and their respective boy girlfriends.
Yeah. That's so good.
There's all the cream cheese you put
Sure, I'll cut that.
Nice, come on.
We
You worked down your
made up
portion, no?
everything.
You did enjoy your portion.
You guys having a good time?
I'm eating as per usual.
Family video.
We haven't done him that much damage. I
That's
think
what we're
so.
gonna find out. I don't know.
Well, it's only been a little war so
Yeah.
far. We haven't really said anything.
They haven't said anything
Damage
bad.
yet.
Oh no, it's been a major
It's been
air attack.
major.
It isn't anything
My
like this
God.
probably ever, because it's
Yeah.
so concentrated.
I know they go every 90 minutes. And they just
I mean, there might have been
cover it
more sheer numbers of planes at other times, but it's all
2,000 a
concentrated
day,
in an
2,000
area the
flights
size
a
of
day.
Massachusetts.
Just every couple hours, just send them over there. Just
2,000?
2,000 a day for the first 2 days.
It's all, I guess, gonna matter on
No, it's slowed down now.
if it destroys these troops or destroys their will to fight.
How many men?
The interesting thing,
A justification for
No, but the-
continuing that kind of injustice.
but for that to happen to me, and for that to happen to us, we don't go around and target nursery schools and school buses. We just move. And all they have to do is move across the
You're not
Jordan.
really answering my question. What about
Well, the
that? What
question-
about the claim that they've been there for over 1,000 years and they have a right to live in the villages they've traditionally lived in for 1,000 years?
That's a property question, and I don't think it merits taking lives. And yes, history is still
What are they gonna-
progressing.
what are they
This is
gonna-
not, I mean,
Well, wait a minute. How are they going to conduct this massacre that you're referring to? With what?
if Jews don't have a state of Israel.
No, who's talking about Jews not having a state of Israel?
it's about
Well,
What's
let's
the
just
first thing, all
start.
right, what's the first thing that you can remember? What's the earliest thing that you can remember?
Talk about your parents and then when your parents died and then.
What's the first thing?
I remember when my sister, I had 2 sisters, and their friends, they were about 10 girls, used to play a game. They held in the back of their dress to each other. They called it the geese. And I was maybe a year old. They didn't want to let me in. And I, with all my might, held on. And I played the game.
How old were you, do you
A
think?
year.
You
A
remember?
year.
Or
Oh, they
you
drag you around?
I
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
you.
They
Or I don't remember.
dangling from the back of the dress.
So how
Were you at the back of the line?
The last one. They didn't
That's the
let
worst
me in.
place.
Yeah.
At least she was
The
playing.
second one, I was sitting on a high chair near the table, and a neighbor came in. I don't remember for what reason, but he picked me up, such a strength, and took me off the chair, and I was very mad. I thought he was very rude to me.
How many sisters and brothers did you have?
We were 6. I had 2 sisters and 3 brothers.
And were you
One
the, like
lady
the
died.
middle or the
I was the
youngest?
youngest girl.
The youngest girl, and then your
And 2
brother?
younger brothers. The oldest was a brother.
What were their
Boy.
names?
What?
What were their names? Their names.
Morris, Bashe, Blume, Sonia, Laser, and Chaim.
And what about Phil?
He wasn't raised by my mother. He wasn't living there steady. He used to come once a week on Saturday to study the Torah with my father.
Really?
Uh-huh.
So
Every
your
Saturday.
father was a scholar of sorts.
Oh yes, they used to study together the Torah. My father could be a rabbi. He had all the papers for
All the credentials.
diplomacy, yeah. Diploma.
So what did he do for a living?
Oh, he used to be a merchant. We had there's, oh, God, look at that. I get a,
lot.
Can't translate into English?
We used to have a lot with wood for building, a lumber yard. So he used to travel to the forest summertime, measure the trees,
Oh, he's a lumberjack.
send men to cut the trees, send it in the factory and the tartak, was called tartak, to cut the trees and put it on a big place. And then peasants used to come who built houses, used to come in to buy the wood, the merchant.
Were you well off?
We made a living, and we the children used to play there on the lot. And we did a lot even to take care of the very heavy pieces of wood,
How
to
did you
keep
take?
it in order.
Oh, you just used to straighten them out?
Straighten out, and we used to put it underneath, little thing that it shouldn't be one on the other straight.
So why wasn't your father around?
He did, but he had the credentials. to
So
be.
why wasn't he?
He didn't want to be?
He
or-
didn't want to be. He didn't want to be. And he was educated. He was the bookkeeper in the Tartak, and my mother was educated. She used to read literature. The first time we had electrical light was when during the First World War, when Germany occupied the town. They made electrical light there. So she used to sit on the table to see. We had one lamp only. And read Tolstoy and Dostoevsky and French writers, all kinds of people.
So did you
And
also?
we used to get in a Jewish paper and a Russian paper every day. And discussions were going on politically.
Did all the brothers and sisters go to school?
The boys went to a Heder, to a Jewish school, and there they learned only Hebrew. And when I was 6 years old, I was in the Russian school because it was occupied, Poland, for 100 years was occupied by Poland,
By Russia.
Germany, by Russia, Germany and Austria, 3 divisions. So I used to go to school, and when I learned Russian to read, I already started to give lessons for kids who couldn't catch on like I did. They used to pay me money, by the way.
Good deal.
And what else did you talk?
So everybody went, so you all went to school,
Did
all your
Lehman
sisters?
and,
So when I was about 9 years old or 8 years old, these boys from the Heder, where they used to learn Hebrew, used to come to my house, to the house, and as in the living room we had the electric light. I used to have sometimes 12, 15 boys. I used to teach them the language and
Russian?
arithmetic, Russian. And I learned, and I used to make money. I was the only one. I was the youngest, and I was the only one who made money.
but you said they didn't like you in the house.
That's another thing I had to fight. There was a time, they liked my older sister because she was smaller in stature. I was bigger and I was 3 years younger than her. But she was smarter, 3 years smarter than I was. They expected for me to be maybe smarter than her because I was bigger. So I was always jealous about her. So one time I decided I'll be sick. Maybe they'll pay attention to me. And I stopped eating. When nobody saw, I went to the place and took a little food. And it was going on for 2 weeks. They called the doctor. The doctors, I complained that I had stomachache. The doctor examined me. He said, she's healthy. Finally, I got tired of it. I said, okay, I feel better.
Leave me alone. I liked it better when you didn't leave, didn't I?
But they gave me inferiority complex. I have to fight all my life to be better than the other person.
Did Bluma and what's her name, and your other sister, did they go to school?
Oh, sure,
The whole family.
the whole family.
You don't have any pictures of your parents in here, do you?
Oh, yeah.
Sure,
Yeah.
mother, I seen a picture of
Let's
the
see
little
a
one.
picture of your parents.
Not here.
Not
Which
here.
one?
Yeah, I saw it in the little one.
They're in the little one.
They're in the little one?
Her mother's in the little one. Right here on the front page.
That's it.
No, that's
her
Bluma. That's her
sister.
sister
Oh,
Bluma.
there's her sister Bluma. Not to be confused with bloomers.
Better stop for a while because,
Oh.
oh, here's
This is my father and this is my mother.
Will you be able to get this? These are really little, John.
They were
What were their
religious.
names?
give me
really?
one.
There's Dad and there's Mom. Shall I bring it closer?
Just hold on a
They
minute.
were religious people.
Dad and Mom.
Why is it so, why is it only a little circle?
This is from my passport.
Point
my
to him,
father.
Ruth.
Oh.
This is her father. What was his name?
Table.
That's way too small. That one I
How
can
about
get.
this is her mother?
Okay.
Pass it forward so we can get it closer to the camera.
Shall we pass it forward,
No,
John?
it's fine.
But to get the father.
Look in there, you can,
And then there's
the three.
So what was your mother's
the
name?
great grandchildren.
Hannah.
Hannah?
She a
And
mean
your
old
father's
man.
name?
Table.
Ted?
Yeah.
Okay?
Where were they born?
My mother was born in Austria. My father in Tikocin.
Now,
In
what was the
Poland.
name of the town you lived in? You were born
Ostrov.
in?
Ostromazowiecki.
Yeah.
Does that town still exist? Is it still a town?
I imagine so. I don't know. It's
Was
not
it like
such a-
near the big city or was it just a little?
It's a small town. It's between two big cities,
What
about
city?
3 hours from Białystok and Warsaw.
On the western or eastern, towards Germany or towards Russia?
That's Russia.
So
So
how,
tell us about it during World, all right.
during World
Do,
War
did we
One?
get anything on your grandparents?
Oh, do you remember your grandparents?
Only my grandmother was alive.
Your mother's mother.
My mother's mother.
How old were
And
you
she
when
was a very rich lady.
oh, was she?
How did
Yeah.
she get rich?
Where's that money
My grandfather, the one thing, they had a very big house and they used to rent out, and they had a store where they used to sell glassware and metalware like samovari, Russian samovar, where they make tea. And not far from there were a few polks of Russian soldiers and officers. And they used to buy a lot of those things. So, they had many kind of business. They were wealthy. He died. He had 22 children, my grandfather.
Oh, yeah,
22?
He married a sister. The first wife died, he married a sister first. He had 11 with the first sister, in the 11 with my grandmother.
Good thing there wasn't another sister.
Ah,
Good thing there wasn't another sister.
Yeah.
he died before
Well,
that.
that's understandable too.
Yeah,
What was
That's
their last name?
Bromberg.
Brumberg?
Yeah,
Ron,
Bromberg.
like Bob.
Were you close to your grandmother?
Not very much. Her other children were quite rich, and they lived in Warsaw and bigger cities.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother was the poorer one. The children were not, they didn't go summertime to a dacha like the others. So she treated us like you treat a poor person.
Mm.
And I remember, I and my sister, we went to visit her once in order to get two groschen. It's like a American penny. Because we wanted to buy in school a little sardine or something for lunch. My mother wouldn't give us that money. So we came and it was raining, and she said, "You came already to make here a mud? You brought the mud here to my house." And we felt very insulted. We left and we never came back. Never.
How old were you then when that?
About 8 or 9 years old. Because in 10 years I finished school in 1914. I was 10 years old because I was born in 1904. So the war broke out already, First World War.
So what did
So,
you do? How
what-
was it? What happened during the First World War? How
Thanks, Mom.
did?
You see,
Does anyone want a cup? Jim, please. Rob, you want a cup?
Not yet, no.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
the big stove what my grandmother
Like
had,
a big one before you get
later she gave it to her youngest son. She was very close with that son. He was already married, had a few children. So he had the store, he had an apartment in her building. He didn't pay for the apartment and not for the store. And when the war broke out with Germany, as she was a rich lady, she took the youngest daughter, who was not married, and they went away to Russia, to a city called Vitebsk. That is the city where the Jewish painter Chagall was born, by the way. They went there because she had a daughter who married a voyageur who used to sell the samovar in Vitebsk. They have a big factory of the samovar,
You mean a merchant, a traveling
a
merchant?
traveling merchant. So one daughter married him, and he used to come there to sell somewhere. They fell in love, so she was there, so they went to that door, to her daughter. And her son remained to my mother. So her son, being scared about what will happen when Germany will conquer the town, he came to my mother that she should move in that apartment where my grandmother was living. And we were just looking for that. We wouldn't have to pay rent. We moved in immediately. In meantime, we didn't have any more the lumberyard because we didn't do too well financially. So my father had a brother in the city, Bialystok, and he had a factory where he made men's underwear, warm underwear for the winter. And we used to sell a lot. The officers from the polks who were stationed there, they used to buy, and private people, peasants, they used to buy from the stores. And we did quite good. When the war broke out, my uncle sent his factories to Russia, to Yekaterinoslav. So he advised my father to send his factory, his machinery there too, and later we will come over. We didn't have time to come. Germany occupied the town, so the machinery was left there, and we were without a means of living. So when my uncle said to move in, and we don't have to pay rent, we moved in immediately. And I saw, when the war didn't take long in this, a few days, and the Russians came in, everyone went to the cellar for a few days. It was shooting and burning in certain places in the city. But they all went to the cellar, and I didn't. I had to see what's going on. I didn't go to the cellar. I said, well, I get killed, but I have to see. So I was outside, and the gate was closed, but through a hole I saw the Russian soldiers, how they came, Cossacks on the horses, and they were filled with lice. So they were opening their uniforms, standing on the horses and cleaning themselves. I saw that. And finally, they went towards Warsaw. They conquered. They were not too long. They were chased out because during the war, one Polish guy by the name Joseph Pilsudski, who was a military man, decided to organize a legion, a Polish legion helping Germany. And he got ammunition, and he knew all the plans. And he decided, when the Russians came close to Warsaw, he hit them so strongly they started running back. And they pushed them back all the way towards Moscow.
But I thought you told me that you used to work for them or something.
Oh, our city, before they conquered Warsaw, our city was occupied by them. So they needed people to carry in the, like bookkeeping, what comes in the office. But they used to take a lot,
Inventory?
a lot of horses and wagons from the villagers. So we have to mark it down in the books, what was out and what came in. So they gave me a job. I worked a few weeks with them,
For the Russians?
for the Russians, for the communists. When finally they started to run back, I was afraid that the Polacks may kill me. In fact, they got a few Jewish people, they hung them right in the street.
Just
For
because
what?
they were
Who did?
Jewish?
They were, because they worked,
Collaborated?
collaborated with the Russians.
Did you see that, or you just
I,
heard about it?
some did, I didn't go to see.
Can't blame
So when was this? So this was still all near the beginning of the war, or all during the war?
That was almost before the end.
Right before the end,
They
okay.
started to run to Moscow, and then Russia got out of the war.
What
They
year are
made-
we?
In
talking about?
Brest-Litovsk, they made peace with
After
Germany.
1914.
What
That
year
was
are you
in nine,
thinking?
that was 19, oh, that was later already.
1917.
1917.
Just as a point of
Yeah.
reference.
When the revolution in Russia
Ah.
broke out, did you feel effects of it where you were at?
Well, I know they gave us apples, they gave us whatever they could, just.
Russian
troops?
The
The
Russians,
communist
yeah,
troops?
communist.
Were these communist troops?
Yeah, communist troops. It was an invasion by the communist troops.
So was
It
this
was
the-
always after 17. It was already about 18.
So this was like the red and the
1918.
white armies fighting each other, probably, the
The
Russian,
Red
Russian armies?
Army, yeah,
Fighting the white armies or the
fighting the Polish army.
Polish, okay.
Uh-huh. Polish, the German and the Polish Pilsudski.
Were united.
The
right?
German army, really.
And you're about
So
13
were
or
the Germans
14.
in your town too?
But they were pushed out, they ran away. Uh-huh.
The Germans?
Uh-huh. Right.
By whom? By
They-
the Russians?
No, they went to their country.
You mean when the war ended?
Well, there was an early peace.
When did,
Oh, that's right.
And they went to
Oh,
fight
that's
the
right.
Americans and the French,
Right.
but there was
Yeah.
still a lot of fighting, right?
the
Because
war was going on between England, America, and France, but not Russia. Russia made peace in Brest-Litovsk with the Germans.
And then had their own civil war to
Trotsky.
fight.
So then what happened what happened in Poland though? I mean,
After the Germany was defeated, they made peace and Poland became independent.
that's when Poland became independent, with Pilsudski as.
Uh-huh. And Pilsudski was the marshal, but he wasn't the president. The president was, they invited a professor from Geneva.
Paderewski was.
No, he was later, and after 2 weeks, he was a liberal man. After 2 weeks, he was killed, assassinated, right, by Polak. It was like Lincoln's story.
So how old were you when you left home? You left your parents' home?
I was 16.
16?
Where did
What
you go?
did you do?
I went to a city, Bialystok. Bialystok belonged before to Russia, but after they made peace in Geneva, it was given to Poland. So the children, the rich children who spoke Russian, had to learn Polish. And as I knew Polish
And Russian.
and Russian, so I went to Bialystok and I became a governess in a very rich family. And I worked there for about a year. So I had a friend, we both decided to be independent, 16 years old, independent. She went to Warsaw and I went to Bialystok. I got myself a job like that and she got a similar job too, because we didn't have another profession. So I worked there for about a year with a little girl and a boy. They learned Polish. I used to eat there at the table with them. I used to sleep there, you know, you are government. There was a cook, and I was there. Once, I got sick and I had quite high fever. And the cook wanted to be sick too, so she said that she's sick also. It came a doctor. The cook was a Russian, her name was Olga, but she spoke Yiddish. So she spoke to the doctor Yiddish and I spoke Polish. So he came into the living room to the lady, and he said, the Jewish girl is not sick, but the Gentile is very sick. So
Oh, no.
so there was a mix-up with the medicines even. But finally I straightened them out. But I didn't like to be there too much, and I'll tell you why. These rich people used to invite at least once a week guests for dinner. And they had guests, lawyers and doctors, because they were rich people. So let's say everyone got 2 eggs. I used to get 1 egg. Sitting at the same table, I am taking care of the children, speaking Polish. They speak Russian. But I have to eat 1 egg, and they eat 2 eggs. Whatever was given a lamb chops, they got 2 lamb chops. I have 1. And I felt insulted, really, but I needed the job, so I stayed on about a year. After a year, the wife, the lady of the house, went to Warsaw, and I remained with the children and the cook. But one night, the man came to me, to bed, and I said to him to get out, and he didn't want to, and I said, I'm going to holler. Anyway, he left. He was afraid the cook will hear. Next day I decided to leave the position. I didn't want to stay. He wanted to give me extra money, that I should keep quiet, but I didn't take it. And I went home. I decided, if I can get a job there, why should I be in a smaller town? It's a big town, not very, very small. I can go to Warsaw, in the capital of the country. Especially I had their friends. And I went to Warsaw.
So what happened there?
And I was there. There I was, I got
Well, what
a
did
job.
you do when you came to Warsaw? I mean, who did you go to when you came to Warsaw?
I came to Warsaw. There was a friend of mine who had a job like that. And another friend had a place where to sleep, my friend. So I used to sleep with her. We used to sleep 3 in a bed. But the other friend, when her, for whom she worked, the lady, when they left for the business, I went in and she gave me food. In fact, one Friday evening, they went to the big theater, to an opera, the husband and wife. And she gave me a piece of gefilte fish with halle. As I was eating, I was standing before the downstairs, waiting on the street. When I saw them leave, then I went up, otherwise I wouldn't go up. And she gave me already the fish. I was always hungry, I can tell you that. As I was eating, suddenly the bell rings, she got scared. She forgot, the lady forgot the lorgnette. She came back. And I took the fish with the plate in my pocket. You see? And that's how, for a few weeks, I was in Warsaw till I got myself a job. And meanwhile, I met a person, young lady. She was 3 times as old as I at that time. But she was an anarchist. she now knew a lady in Ostrava, when the anarchist, when the police were after them in Warsaw, they used to come to Ostrava and stay with that lady. That's how I happened to know her. So this lady, she came to me, and she says, if you ever lose the job, I have a place for you where you can stay. And it didn't take long. I lost that job. Why did I lose? The girl got sick. So who made her sick? I made her sick because I took her to the park for a walk. But that was my job. I had to take her. Maybe she wasn't dressed exactly properly. So, and anyway, I left that job, and she took me where I can stay. That was in an apartment, a big room, and there was living a man, an anarchist, Max. I have his picture here.
Let's see it,
Yes.
let's find it. Let's find it.
All right, let me see.
You gonna stop it for a minute, John, while we look?
Nah, go ahead and look.
All right, we'll look. Do you wanna come
It's
bring a
not
chair and
This
sit up
was
in
his
the...
No, I
girlfriend.
can later.
This is Max's girlfriend.
Ah,
You wanna see
she
Max's
was-
girlfriend? Well,
No.
look at Max. She's
Forget-
not a good-looking woman. We know.
We'll all vouch for that.
and another one.
Maybe she just, it was a bad day for her.
She was in love with him, but he wasn't. That was the trouble.
I remember that picture of Max.
You do?
Who are all those people you're passing by?
Yeah.
We'll get to them, we'll get to
He
them.
has a
Maybe
mustache.
4 o'clock.
Oh,
You can
didn't
stay,
lose it.
David, you can go and we'll just edit you out.
Yeah.
Worst things have happened.
Max,
At least it's painless.
where are you?
Scary.
Max?
Are you sure it's in here?
Is it in
It
the other
was.
book?
No, it's in the bigger one.
No, has to be, yeah.
I'll look in here probably.
Probably on the
Somewhere
last
looking
page,
there.
Max.
What, you've seen Max already?
Yeah, we saw this once at your grandma's apartment.
Yeah, I remember that.
Aye,
Picture of
hey.
the
Max is
funeral,
shy.
too,
It's
right?
very
He
well.
doesn't wanna be found.
Picture of Max and picture
That's
of me.
Max.
Here's Max, the anarchist. See, it runs in the family, Anna.
Alright, hold
Why, what's up
on.
with his forehead?
It's
Well,
a
that
little
just-
pen mark. Do you got him, Jeff?
No,
That's a
where is
bad-looking
he?
fellow.
It's this
Well,
picture
you
here.
told us
Not a bad
before
looking
he was
fellow.
What should
Russian,
we do?
right? He fled Russia, right? from the
Uh-huh.
I got him.
We got
You got it?
Yes.
Is there anyone else on there that
Anyone
I'd
on
like to
this
see?
page we wanna look? Who are these people? Who's that down
So
here?
what about
Oh,
Max?
this is Morris.
Ruth?
Yeah,
Wait, who are these people?
his friends are playing chess.
Hard to
This
see.
is, your older brother, no, younger brother?
Yeah.
They're all
Morris, is
younger.
Morris
The
younger?
oldest, the oldest.
Morris was the oldest brother.
Yeah.
The
But
one who
younger
came,
than
he came
you.
to this country and he died here. He killed himself. And his two friends. Sorry. And this is the half-brother, the oldest half-brother who used to come on Saturdays only. That's Phil. Phil Lipson, who became owner of the Lipson
Alright,
Markets
we gotta
here.
wait to do
Huh?
grandpa. So, oh, you didn't have it, John?
No, I've got it.
We gotta wait till we get to that part of the story before we show our grandfather.
Okay, so you're in
Keeping
Warsaw
structure.
Yeah.
at Max's house.
Yeah.
What year are we in?
What year is this about?
I get
You're
confused.
16 or 17 by now?
More,
She's gotta be old.
maybe 18 now.
18?
Can we do one other thing real quick?
What?
I think it'd be nice if we all know who's sitting here today.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
This is grandma.
Sonia Schreibman, who is the grandma.
Well, okay, we got
And
that.
this is her daughter.
Move back
daughter.
there. Alright.
Chrissy.
Well, who's Chrissy?
David's
Chrissy is
girlfriend.
David's girlfriend. David is the grandson of Grandma,
And son of Diane.
the son of Diane. Chrissy being his girlfriend is Chipchilla.
What does that mean?
Nothing, it's an
What does that
invented
mean?
word.
I'm Ruth, and that's my mother and my grandmother, and this is my sister, Debbie. Say hello.
Right. You have to say who you are.
I'm Rob. I'm Debbie's significant other.
Now, John, you have to
Alright.
come take a picture of yourself.
You guys
You want me to
announce
come
a
do it?
political
No, I
affiliation
can, I
also?
can do it.
And I,
Just stick your head in front of him. I'm
Yes,
done.
the only one missing is the one behind the camera. Oh!
You want me to just
No, it's
Here,
just,
Rob will do it.
I got it.
You need assistance? You need to knock anything over?
No, well, you can make sure I'm in here if you want,
Okay.
but I think I'm set now that
Okay,
I tightened it.
You can take that spot there for a minute.
Is the little, is whatever's in the screen, in the picture?
Yeah.
You're in there.
Yeah, I'm in the whole thing, and I'm John. I'm married to Ruth.
This is your grandmother-in-law, and this is your mother-in-law.
And this is your
And
brother's
this is your
girlfriend-in-law.
sister-in-law.
Oh, that'd be an exciting part of the
All right.
film where it just kind of goes like that. I think.
I like that shot though.
All right, now where were we?
What about
We're trying to
1920
figure
in Max's
out
house?
like
what
22,
year it
right?
is when you're at Max's.
1922.
Yeah.
If you're
22.
18 and you were born in 04.
Yeah.
It's 22.
Probably
or
22.
About 19.
Yeah.
Early 1920. Okay, tell us your max.
Well, he had one room, and I was very young, so I got myself boxes, put near the window. That was my bed.
Boxes?
Yeah, and boxes, and whatever smartest I had, I put it on. And I slept there. And in the morning, I used to get a paper and look for a job. And we used to get together, many friends. He wasn't the only one. He became an organizer in Warsaw of the,
So that's how you got involved with all the left-wing
yeah,
element in
yeah.
Wait,
And I-
so what did he organize?
He organized workers,
labor unions?
yeah, labor union, yeah, sure, labor union. Yes, it was a girls
Demonst-
out. Free.
Freemasons? No.
No, gosh, I got the,
Anarchists?
You can't organize.
he organized.
That's right.
He was an
Organized
organizer of
anarchists.
workers to make strikes, for better improvements, you know, for higher
Demonstrations?
wages.
Would they do demonstrations?
Yeah, they used to do demonstrations.
Yeah.
And finally, as we knew each other, and many friends used to come there, we used to have discussions about anything in this, what's going on in the world. Bakunin, Kropotkin, Gorky, anything. And it was, for me, it was very interesting for everybody. And I'll make it short. He got sick and he passed away.
Oh no.
What do you mean you got sick?
He got sick with consumption.
TB.
What is that what consumption is?
TB, yeah.
TB. He's here. This girl, I have,
The ugly
He's-
one?
well, she's standing where they buried him.
Oh, no
all
wonder
my
she
some
looks so
friends.
unhappy.
Did you get to stay in the house or did you have to, after he passed
Well, you
away,
had to
were you
leave.
still staying there?
No, I got another job already at that time.
So what were you doing then? The same?
Well, I had a job, another job. Then I had a friend from a small town, but your father knew her. Through her, he started to come to me, and we got acquainted.
How old were you when you met him?
About 22. And finally, after a short time, we got married.
How old were you
Boy, that
when
was
you
a
got
quick
married?
courtship.
How old were you when you got married? 23?
23 or 24, yeah.
So what did
So
you
where
like
did you
about
live?
him? He's a good
What was
dancer?
he doing at the time?
He had the factory of boxes.
Oh,
Used
he
to be
already
back
had
there.
it?
Oh, sure. And I liked it. I used to go down in the basement, and I used to help work small boxes for cosmetics to pack. I used to make it. He used to cut it on the machine, and I used to make it, put the nail.
So he was like a carpenter in effect. He did some kind of
Just boxes. His father used to make boxes, and he made boxes.
Oh, his father did that too?
You make a lot of money making boxes? Was there money in boxes?
Ah,
Was there money in boxes in those days?
Did he make
some
much
people
money?
we made a living from that.
Where did you live? Where,
I lived on the street called, it was called Karmelitska.
Didn't you live with his mother for a while?
Yeah, for a while, yeah.
Because I can remember that.
Yes, I lived for a while.
It must have been quite a while, because I remember it.
She doesn't want to talk about that mother. So you didn't like
In
your
fact,
mother-in-law?
first,
No,
we
she
li-
was a wonderful.
first we
She
lived,
liked her. Did you
Yeah.
like your mother-in-law?
yeah, she was right. We lived
There's a
first
ringing
in
doorbell.
one room by two people.
Uh-huh.
And then we moved to his mother's, and then we got a nice apartment.
That I remember.
Uh-huh.
Karmelitska.
And we had a cook, remember?
The cook, I don't remember.
Oh, we had many.
I remember there was always a girl in the house, always somebody in the house.
Because I used to go out to work to make injections, doing my profession somewhere.
But I remember one girl,
Sala.
I don't know who, but she was so
This ain't
mean.
your story.
I have to tell this story. No, you went out, and at the time, times were not, there were like pogroms.
Oh, they
Periodically.
were against Jews, yeah.
Yeah.
Why, you're getting like.
And I knew
ahead
this.
of the
How
story.
old was I? 2 years old?
Yeah,
And I knew this.
Yeah.
Somehow, I knew this. And this girl, they went out.
you got three or four before we came to America.
It was way before,
Yeah,
because
3
it was well before. Anyway, one time they went out in the evening, and I was at home, and she said, "You better come to the window." And it started to get late, and I was saying, "When are they gonna come home? When are they gonna come home?" And she says, "What are you gonna do if they never come home? They might never come home. Come to the window, call for them." And she had me at the window screaming, "Mama, Mama." And of course nobody showed up. And I was hysterical. I was absolutely hysterical. And I never got over that, because anytime they went out after that,
I didn't,
after that kind of did it for me. Till the time I was 13 years old, I would cry.
one night I went out I was called to make an injection to a lady. She was dying from a heart attack. And meanwhile, some Polish people, hooligans, attacked. And all the gates got closed, and I couldn't come home. It took a long time till I came home. You were very scared at that time.
No,
Was that
wait,
before or after Sala?
Huh?
Was that before or after that girl did that?
That was after.
Now, wait, let's go back.
One time I went with you to the Saski Park,
I
a very
remember.
big park.
You were having a coat made at a tailor
Yeah,
to come to the United States.
right. And I went with you, and suddenly they are killing Jews. They started to chase Jewish people, and you were in the little buggy.
Oh, in a stroller?
Who is
That I don't remember.
who is doing that? Who is killing?
Chasing.
Who is chasing Jews?
Polish
Hooligans.
hooligans,
people.
Polish
Well,
hooligans.
I'm curious.
Yeah, Polish hooligans.
I wasn't there.
And I started to run with you out from the park. And later I was afraid to go there. That was before we went to America.
Did you ever consider?
The situation was so bad. Texas, only Jewish people pay taxes. The Polish people.
Did you ever consider leaving there before you did? I mean, you didn't leave till, in the
38.
38.
38. Did you ever think of leaving, long before that?
We were
Going to America?
not. I did, but my husband didn't care.
I mean, there were other people leaving, weren't there, at the time?
Some people were leaving. And my husband didn't want to leave. I wanted. To the last minute, he wasn't enthusiastic to leave.
So
Yeah.
you're the one who,
I said, if you are not leaving, I'll go with Diane.
Hadassah.
With Hadassah. Her name was Hadassah at the time. I say, I'll take Hadassah and we will go if you don't leave. So he finally made up his mind.
It's a good thing, too.
now wait, when
Tell-
did you
tell
become
them.
a nurse? How did you become a nurse? You were talking
We can
about
take a
giving
break.
Should we take a break?
Why don't we take a break?
All right, let's
I
stop
gotta
for a
pee.
minute. Are we going?
You're on.
We took a short break. We've all used the restroom. We got more coffee.
We lost
We're
a couple
continuing
people.
on. David and Chrissy had to leave. but we're continuing on. We got some more pictures to show. Here's a picture of my grandma. How old were you in this one?
Maybe 18.
About 18.
18 years old.
I'm working on it.
All right, let me know when you got it. Hold up a moment.
I got it.
Maybe on
Hold
the
it,
side.
get rid of it.
Wanna hold it some more?
No.
You got it. And this is a picture of our
Hold it
grandfather.
straight to me, Ruth.
Don't
I'll
pull
see
it.
the date.
Doesn't
Maybe
say.
that's
Huh?
the date.
His name was Herschel. Herschel Schreibman. And here's a picture of my grandma and grandpa together.
Oh, here's another one here.
Okay.
All right, and one more because my mother's in it, so she just
No,
insists.
this one, no.
Oh, she's not in this.
That's a beauty.
That's a beauty.
It's got too much glare.
Well,
There we go, I got
Zoom
it.
in.
I got it.
Okay. All right. Put those back, Mom. Now tell us how you became a nurse and all of that.
Yeah, how
Talked
do you become a
about
nurse?
giving injections before.
I got tired of being
Governess?
a governess. So, I had a girlfriend. She was quite from a wealthy home, and she wanted to become a nurse. And I thought, why shouldn't I be? And the qualifications I had, finished gymnasiums, I could go. So we wrote a letter. She decided to go for a nurse, which takes 2.5 years. And I decided to become a midwife, which took a year, because I didn't have the means. Even for a year I didn't have the means. I wrote a letter to my brother in America that I need $10 a month. And after a year, I'll be able maybe to repay him. And he started to pay me $10.
Which
And I-
brother?
Morris.
Morris?
And I applied in Warsaw in a school for midwives. And being a midwife, I was pretty good. There was 2 girls who couldn't catch on the course. And I used to teach them, and I make a little money. And finally, they learned so well, they got the same marks as I did.
That's a good teacher. See, the teaching, I guess teaching runs in the family.
But I didn't like to work as a midwife. So I got a job in a hospital for children. And I worked for about a year. And after that, the director went to another city to lodge. And she worked in a big hospital for women. And she wrote me a letter to come there, I'll get a job. So I worked there for a year. And I got a lot of practice as a nurse already, because I worked as a nurse, yeah. And
Said you worked in an orphanage.
and then I came back to Warsaw, and there was a place for abandoned children, poor mothers, divorced mothers or single mothers. They couldn't take care of the children. They had to go and look for a job. So they used to abandon the children. There was a special building for Jewish children. And they accepted children from the day first to about 7 years. After they were 7 years, they sent them to another school where Dr. Korchak was the manager. And he was a great pedagogue too. They stayed there till they were about 18. And they used to learn the program of high school and some kind of a training. Some of them became nurses and worked later in the place where they were brought up. When they brought a child without the name, but the mother signed this is a Jewish child, so we had to give it a name. the nurses gave the name. Once they bought it when Lindbergh's aeroplane was flying over the Azor Island. So we called the girl Azorska. Once they bought a child, it was in May, so they call it Maiska. All kind of names. And I worked there about 2 years.
You talked about how the children.
And Dr. Korchak, when they were 7 years old, Dr. Korchak came into this children. And when the Nazis occupied Poland, I read, in the papers, and I have a picture of what I cut out. They came to take the children, to take them to Treblinka. And Dr. Korchak, who was such a devoted man, he said they wanted to give him freedom. And he decided that he doesn't want the freedom. He was Jewish. And he went with them to Treblinka with the children. He perished there. And I have the picture, not here, but in another place in my house. But there was another fact with Dr. Korchak, that I was a witness. There was a lady who was taking care of the food for the children. There were little children that we used to feed with the bottles, and when they were older, we used to give them meals, and we used to feed them very fast because there was not enough nurses. So the lady who took care of them, she was a widow, she had a boy whom she tried to see that he should go to college. And this widow used to take care of all the food there. One day I was in the office, and the manager was there, and we looked through the window, and the lady is walking out from work, and oranges and lemons are falling from her dress. The manager called her in, and he said, "What are you doing? You are stealing from the children food." And she started to cry. She will never do it again. She wanted to bring for her son a few pieces of food. So our manager went on the telephone to Dr. Korchak and told him the story. What shall I do? Shall I fire her? And Dr. Korchak said, she's a widow with one son and poor. And her qualifications now will be spoiled with what she did. She may commit suicide. Better, you know she will not do it anymore. She was caught this time. And he let her work again.
So from there, after the orphanage, where did you?
After the orphanage,
You worked in a sanitarium for a while, didn't you?
I went to a sanatorium for TB sick people. And there was one guy, Ziegelbaum, and he had a brother who used to come to visit him. And that brother was he was an organizer of Jewish workers, the Palestinian, the brother. I later read that when the war started, when the Nazis occupied Poland, and the people he ran away to London with the Polish government. And there in London, he wanted to pay, the people of the world should pay attention what the Nazis are doing to the Jews. That they are absolutely killing them out without any reservations, by the hundreds of thousands. And nobody listened, and he committed suicide, Ziegelbaum. I just got a picture of him in a booklet, what I just read it this week about him.
Really?
Uh-huh. Anyway, so I worked there for about a year.
And what happened after that? After the sanitarium?
After the sanitarium,
What were you doing when you met Hershey?
after the sanitarium, I came to Warsaw and I got pregnant with you, and I parked, and I walked a little private.
So tell us
And
what
then
was
we
happening.
started to think about coming to America.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what
tell
was
about the
happening in
Pietruszka.
Poland, why
Oh.
you decided to come here?
We talked already that the war is almost imminent with the Nazis. And we used to have a friend who was the publisher of a paper, a Jewish paper, Pietruszka was his name. And we were friends, we were neighbors once. So I went to visit him. He said that he knows people who are going to America. If they have a relative there, they get papers. So I sent a letter to Uncle Phil that I would like to come to America. I don't need the money. I had the money to go. I just need the papers. So it didn't take 6 weeks.
Which
And
is
we got the
amazing,
papers.
which is amazing, and this needs to be told, is that for most people, to get the papers to come to America, you had to make application, and then you received first papers. Then you filled out the first papers, and you applied the first papers. And then, after that, you received your second papers, which were your final papers, upon which you could then arrange a visa. That process usually took 2 years. When Phil got the letter, from what I understand, he took it to his attorney, Ron.
Right.
And Ron said, well, I don't know what you wrote him in that letter, but apparently you made it sound pretty critical.
I just said that the state of affairs was very bad, and we want to leave as soon as possible.
Okay, so what Ron did was, I think he took it to the congressman, to our congressman, you know, Phil's congressman.
As he paid taxes, and he signed a paper, my brother, that we will not be,
Oh yeah, he
we
sponsored
will
you.
not depend on the government for support.
He sponsored you, but
Yeah.
besides that, I suspect that Ron took it through either a senator or a representative to get it that fast. Second papers. We dispensed with first papers and just went straight into second papers.
How long had Phil been in this country?
How long had Phil been in this country?
What?
How long had Phil been in this country at that time?
In 1913, a year before the war broke out.
The First World War, so he
Yeah.
had
So
been
if
here
you
for
would
a
have
long
had to
time.
go through the
And he-
first and
and
the
he
second
was-
papers?
He
you
was in
wouldn't
the
have-
American
He wouldn't have
army
made it.
in France.
I have a question about the time before you left in Poland. Were you in Warsaw
Also.
in the years leading up to
All
38?
the time in Warsaw.
Wasn't there a boycott against Jewish merchants? I mean, wasn't there a lot of anti-Semitism coming from the Polish people?
Yeah, there was.
How
That's-
did your husband survive or make money when there
Well,
was boycotts against Jews?
they needed them. They needed, for instance, there was the war with Franco,
Prussian?
Spain.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
And the Polish, probably every government, the Polish government took advantage. They wanted, the Spanish government wanted guns. And we had a lot of rusty guns in Poland, that from the First World War. So they needed boxes to pack the guns. So they came to my husband to make boxes to send the guns.
Well, as a matter of fact, he was just starting to prosper because of the war needs.
Yeah.
But this is another thing that I remember that you won't remember because Hershey, my father took me, I was, at that time 4 years old?
Yeah.
I was 4 years old, and he took me one day, and he took me by the hand, we went into this building, a large building, and we came up to a door, it was a frosted glass door, and behind the door, down a long hall, was this tremendous line of people. Just a huge line of people, and they were all trying to get in. We needed a visa. I don't know what we needed, or
The
we needed
American
something.
visa, yeah.
That may have been it. Anyway, my father stood me right across the hall from the door, and he says, "You stay here, I'll be back soon." And he opened the door, and he went in, and everybody just swore at him. I mean, I was terrified, I will never forget this, because people were screaming, "You know, who do you think you are?" He was so determined. He just walked right in like he owned the place. And it wasn't long, because you know how long time is for children. And it wasn't all that long, and he came out, and he had our visa. And this whole line of people standing there waiting. I don't know. I remember that. Did he tell you about it?
No, I don't remember. Maybe he said it.
It's strange he took me along. So anyway, we had, how about the family? How did they feel when they knew we were gone?
Well, a lot of people were almost jealous that they couldn't leave the country. They felt that they are in danger.
But I'm talking about like,
You know, when we left,
like our family, you know, like Basha and, oh, tell about Hershey's family. Tell about Basha and
you mean
Avram.
Zisel,
Zisel, not Basha, I'm sorry, Zisel.
They were sorry to lose us.
I know, but tell about them. Tell a little bit about what kind of people they were. I mean, Hershey he had an older brother who died, right?
Yeah.
His father,
The older brother was in the Polish army. He got TB, he died of it. He left a wife with 2 children.
oh,
Uh-huh.
where did they live?
In Warsaw.
Did we ever see them?
Yeah, they used to come to the grandmother. We used to see him.
I don't remember that at all.
Yanko was the name, and Malke was the girl's name.
Wow.
Mhm.
What I remember scenes at my grandmother's house where Zisel was sitting by the window by a sewing machine.
Zisel, not the sewing machine. Zisel used to make for the military the
Epaulets?
epaulets, all the stuff, and the stars, whatever. She used to embroider it. And she made it quite nice money for it. She was very capable for that. And Abraham used to make frames for pictures. They're very nice people, very decent people.
Tell about your mother-in-law and the crazy man in Warsaw. The one who used to lay across the streetcar tracks. Remember there was a crazy man? I remember it. Filthy, he seemed to live in the street, and we'd see him once in a while.
Who
What does
cares?
this have to do with the
Because-
mother-in-law?
She would take in, your mother-in-law would take in any,
My grandmother.
your grandmother would take in any poor man and hungry man. He could be dirty and sick and I don't know what. She had pity of everybody. She was a very good-hearted person.
What was her name?
Humale. They called her Humale.
She was, I understand, a beauty when she was young.
Right, blonde, blue-eyed.
So now we're in the 30s.
You're throwing us off.
Well,
track
all right,
here.
we're at the point where we're
So
coming
what-
to the United States. You want to tell about the trip?
So when did you leave Poland? Do you remember like what month it was and all that?
That doesn't
Summer,
matter. Just
summertime? Was it cold?
Fall, it was
Just
fall.
tell us about the trip over there.
I know I was very sick, seasick.
Were you? How long did it take?
Mhm.
How
Well,
long
the
did
first boat, tell the first boat was the Warszawianka.
Well, we went with a Polish ship Batory
Where did you
to
leave?
England,
What city did you leave from?
From Gdynia, the
from
port.
Gdynia, Polish port Gdynia with the Batory. And we went to England. And in England, we went to a hotel where there were many more immigrants. But we had friends, their relatives were in Poland, our neighbors. You remember that?
Yes, we went to visit them.
In that hotel, one boy used to take care maybe of 100 people.
I remember.
Deliver the food, fix the beds, everything. One boy. But the relatives came, they took us to the theater. We saw a picture where he played the Polish president's son from Poland, was a singer. His name was Kapula. And he played in that opera
Young
in
Kapula.
Versailles in London.
Young Kapula.
And these people had a big, they were rich people, they used to sell clothes to the British colonies all over the world, and they were quite rich. They had a library room where with a ladder in order to get a book, like in a real library. And they saw the book when Bialik, the famous Yiddish writer, or Shalomash, used to come to England. They stayed in their house, and there was the books with their signatures. In the day we had to leave, they took it to many places to show us England. We saw the park where they used to, Hyde Park, where they used to make speeches. And it was something, in Poland you will be afraid to make a speech on the street, unless you are revolutionary. So your life was in danger. So they used to speak against the government, criticize. We were surprised of that freedom. And
So the last day you said, when we were ready to leave London?
yeah, the last day we were ready to leave, he gave me $1 as a beginning of the million, what we will make in England, a symbol. And they gave me dresses, all kind of good things. They were very nice to me. Mm-hmm.
And then the next ship we got on,
There we went on the
Queen Mary.
on Queen Mary, and I was awful sick. All day they played the music by Mir Mr. Shane. It just came out in America that Shalom Secunde, who is the composer of that song, started it. And it was so much in style, the popular, that they played it from the morning till night. And I was sick, but I was listening. But Diane wasn't sick. She was with her father around.
Yeah, I ran all over that ship.
Ruth's been on that
And
ship too.
finally, when we came to New York, and we started to walk downstairs, I came to the Golden Land, and I saw a man without shoes, very poorly dressed, stays with a tray of little baked, looked awful, and hollering, buy, whatever it was, for 5 cents. And I said to my husband, is that the Golden America? That fellow represents that Golden America?
I remember that the port of New York was just, to get off there, it was like, you know, oh my God, where do you go? Did you get that feeling? Oh, go back a little way when we had to have a physical to come to America. An American doctor examined us. This was in Poland yet. Do you remember that?
Not only a physical, they asked us mentally. They told you to count from 100 backward, and you did.
I know.
She was 4 years old.
Well, first he said count up to 10.
Yeah.
So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then he says, all right, count backward from 100. I think he was a little aggravated that I was doing well. He was not a nice man. His handling was so rough, and he couldn't talk to us and he couldn't tell you to turn around. But when he turned me around, it was not, gently. It was, and this was a doctor, and his handling was very rough. Do you remember that?
No.
So I remember it. But anyway, when he asked me to count backward, I went almost as fast as I went forward. So he said, all right, stop. Who met us at the boat?
Not that boat.
What happened? How did we go through customs? I don't remember any of that.
We came straight to New York, to
Yeah.
Detroit.
Well, no, didn't we see the family in New York at all? What's her name?
Suala?
Suvala?
No.
Didn't we even stay in Vienna?
We went to Switzerland the summer.
That same
to
summer?
visit them, yeah.
No one picked you up in New York?
Nobody. We went to the...
How did we know
How'd you
where to
know,
go?
yeah, how'd
we
you know how to
asked
get around?
people. Whoever we asked knew Yiddish, in fact.
That's what I was wondering.
You know, that's a funny thing.
That was a little bit of problem, but I guess.
We thought the whole world America is Yiddish.
Thought you were in Israel, huh?
So they explained where to go and we went.
Now, how did we get, by train or what?
We came by train, yeah, to Detroit. So Phil and Rose, we were on the train to meet us in
And,
Morris.
and took us straight to their house.
Uh-huh, right.
I remember that. I remember Muriel, not Buddy, but Muriel gave us
Who's
strange,
Muriel?
like,
Their daughter.
that's the Lipson's oldest daughter.
Oh,
I mean, they had two kids, Muriel, who was the older one, and
And
Buddy.
Buddy.
Muriel must have been somewhere around 16.
Yeah, 16.
Okay, and she thought she was being real clever, so she came and gave us weird foods. She gave Hershey, and then, this upset me terribly, because she gave Hershey, first she gave him a marshmallow to eat, and he took one bite, and he made it crazy. Now, she was hysterical, and I don't like the idea of her laughing at my father. And then she gave him olives, and he did the same thing. I mean, you know,
I'm used to
the first time
We
he ever
didn't have
tasted an
olives
olive
then.
as an adult, it is absolutely grotesque. And she gave me, you know, the same thing that she laughed at us all. And I was very, very upset because she did that.
So your first impressions were that we had terrible food in this country?
No, my first impression was that my cousin is laughing at us.
So then what did you do when you got here? What happened?
Oh, we stayed at Uncle Phil for a week, and we came here, it was Thursday, I think, and Friday, we ate the Friday holiday dinner, the Shabbos dinner, and she had a lot of relatives here, invited her sisters and brothers and brothers, and we got acquainted with them. We told them everything what they wanted to know, what
In
stories.
Yiddish, right?
In Yiddish, sure.
Did you know any English?
For instance, we had, the last few weeks, we had a teacher to teach us English.
Mm.
Now that he was once in America. So he said that the window is a fenêtre. When I said a fenêtre, they said, what's that? Maybe it's French.
But I used to sit there and I used to listen to them take lessons. And my first day in kindergarten, I didn't know English except for the few.
What school did you go to?
I went to Thurkel School.
Is it
14
still open?
miles.
Still there. It's on 14th
boulevard,
Street,
near the
14th
boulevard.
Street in LaSalle.
Yeah,
And
That's right by Kevin Rash's.
okay, now I went in, and the kindergarten, there were these big, tall doors. It was like you could open all of them, and they were all with windows there. And for the first couple of days, I used to just stand by the door and wait for her to pick me up. I mean, I was terrified. The kids, another thing, American kids don't act the same as European kids. They're a lot less disciplined. And so I felt really threatened. I mean, you know, I didn't know anybody. I couldn't communicate with anybody. And everybody looked wild to me. So, but one day, you know, I'm sitting there, the teacher got me to, we were drawing pictures or whatever, and one of the girls starts talking to me, asked me something. And so I turned to her and I said, I have to go to my lodging and get my dictionary. This was something I picked up from your tutor.
but interesting, I started to take classes in English, and my teacher called me to the board to write the word conquer, and I wrote it very, you know, as I tell you, I was a teacher when I was 6 years old, so I read it straight and nicely, conquer. Then she said, Were you by any chance a teacher?
But tell about our first apartment. Here, on Pingree.
Oh, yeah.
The Lipsons rented it for us.
Yeah.
They found it. It was in the Jewish immigrant neighborhood. It was a very, strictly it's Jewish neighborhood.
Not far from 12th Street.
Yeah, it was right off of 12th Street, between 14th and 12th Street, on Pingree. 3 rooms.
Well, nothing special to talk really about it.
So weren't you scared when you first came here though, and you didn't, you didn't speak much English?
When I came here, besides I had my 2 brothers,
Mm-hmm.
I had friends.
Oh,
The
already.
Cones and the Sharkies and
Tell how it happens is that you had friends.
they were from my town, from Poland. So and the Leibigs, she was from Austria. So we had friends, they were not neighbors nearby. So I felt very good.
And then you took right away English lessons.
Yeah, right away I went to school.
So less than a year after you got here, World War II broke out, right?
That was, do you remember that night?
I came in
38?
1938 in the end of November, and the war broke out in September, summer in 1938.
So it was less than a year.
Less than a year, 39.
Yeah.
Do you remember the night when we heard the extras out on the street?
Uh-huh.
Do you remember that night?
No.
Because I remember it.
No.
I was in bed already. And at that time, you didn't have the universal radio, there was no television. It wasn't like every single house had a radio. And I remember laying in bed, and out on the street, you could hear, extra, extra! And they would, actually yell it out like that. And they announced that Hitler had invaded Poland. And I just remember the unease that I felt. I understood. And of course, you sense your parents' reactions. And, the whole family, everybody, we had left everybody over there.
I started immediately to send packages to Poland to my mother, some clothes and food. And she never got it.
Tell what Hershey did for a living to begin with.
So you
When
never,
we first got here.
so you never found out what happened to your mother and
Yes.
father again, or you
Yes.
never heard
My
from
father
them
was
again?
died before I came to America. But I know that my mother perished in Treblinka. I know
How
that.
do you know?
A person who survived, later somebody met him in Europe, and he said she was taken there.
So all your brothers and sisters got out?
They went to Argentina before and to Israel, and I went to America. And she's supposed to go to Israel, but there wasn't enough time. I couldn't take her here, I had to be a citizen.
And Phil was not her
No.
relation at all. She was the second wife.
So do you know what happened to everybody else, Hershey's side?
His mother, yes.
His mother, his brother, his sister, all the family, they all
No, but-
perished.
But I remember it was after the war had started, and I remember that Hershey, one day he got a letter. He got a letter, do you remember that? And he started just pacing. He was walking around, we were in Philadelphia already at the time. And he was just walking around. He just, just paced the house for maybe an hour. And it told him that his mother had died
Right.
of a heart attack. And this was when, I think the ghetto already existed.
They were in the ghetto, the Warsaw
Yeah.
Ghetto?
And the conditions were bad, and she had a bad
And we
heart.
started to get letters from relatives, or my side relatives, rich relatives, who didn't pay attention when I was there. Not only they didn't pay attention, I came once to Warsaw, they were rich people. I wanted to sleep there a night, and they said that they had no room for me. I kept getting letters to take him papers to come. One thing, I wasn't a citizen yet. I couldn't send him papers. In second, I was thinking to myself what life can do that they need now to me when I needed to them. And they could help. They didn't. Now they come to me for help. Isn't that something?